Last week, something rather disturbing happened, which was orchestrated by the Canadian government. So the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, the CFIA, killed, I believe, somewhere between 300 and 350 ostriches at Universal Ostrich Farm in Edgewood, BC. Am I getting those numbers right?
Well, those are the official numbers. I don't believe them. But once upon a time, when the farm had their ostriches, they had 397. When the CFIA took custody under a warrant that lasted over 50 days, I mean, it's an occupation, it's not a warrant. They were said to have taken custody of 330 ostriches. By the end of their occupation, nobody on the ground believed there were anywhere near 300 ostriches. And they've killed all of them, but until we get an accounting of the corpses that we're not going to get, I don't believe there were 330 ostriches there to be slaughtered by the time they slaughtered whatever ostriches were there. So I've got my own theories, but yeah, essentially they did proceed with the slaughter after 11 months of fighting it in the courts. Like I like to say, like when they got the Supreme Court dismissing the ostrich farm's appeal, I say, like alcoholics to an open bar, or like horny teenagers about to lose their virginity. They ran in there as fast as they could and just shot 1,000 rounds of bullets to kill however many ostriches were left. But yeah, that's the gist of it, and I'll give the backdrop if your viewers are more or less familiar with the procedural landscape.
I mean, the whole thing is really weird for a variety of reasons. The more recent controversy, and the controversy that's being covered in the media, at least, is surrounding the way that the CFIA killed these ostriches, which was pretty barbaric and apparently, not necessary, but also it's been argued, and I think justifiably, that it was unnecessarily cruel.
Yeah, objectively, it was psychological abuse. It was psychological torture. It was psychological and physical terrorism. I mean, I'm using the word, and RCMP may or may not like me. I suspect they don't like me. They behaved like actual terrorists. They conducted behavior which, under the Canadian definition of terrorism, is terrorism. But for those, do I give the brief backdrop? Because for those who don't know, this is an ostrich farm that had ostriches in the family for like upwards of 35 years. So they had 400 and some odd ostriches as of December last year. It was open to the public at one point before COVID. They might have even farmed the meat way back when. COVID hits. They are shut down to the public, so I think they need to find new methods of having a business. They somehow got into COVID antibody research. There's an article from 2021 saying that they've, might have discovered a new COVID antibody in these eggs of these ostriches that could be used to fight COVID. And fast forward 3 years, what happens is allegedly, according to the federal court judgment, this is how the birds became infected. A flock of infected ducks flew into an adjacent pond, infected the ostrich farm, and magically, out of the blue, before anybody really even knew what the hell was going on, they got an anonymous tip to the CFIA that the ostriches were infected. CFIA gets in there and determines that the flock is infected with H5N1, and this is based on only and exactly 2 PCR tests done by way of anal swab on 2 of the carcasses, cycle rated to 40 cycles, which everybody knows has a high chance of yielding false positives. And based on that, they say you got to kill all of 400, and there were 397 left at that time who had survived and were healthy. They appealed it to the Federal Court of Appeal. Federal Court of Appeal in April or May says, no, the decision of the CFIA is not patently unreasonable. We're not getting involved in their expertise. They can go ahead and kill them. They appeal it to the Federal Court of Appeal. And in August, give or take, might be off by like a couple of weeks, the federal court issues their ruling. Note, confirms unanimously the Federal Court of Appeal, which ratified the CFIA's cull order. They then petitioned to the Supreme Court. And so we are now, as at the time the Supreme Court refused to take up the case, 11 months out of infection and 11 months of healthy, recovered birds. CFIA pursuing this, because they have bloodlust. Supreme Court, they then occupy the premises after the Federal Court of Appeal dismisses the appeal, and they think they're going to get to go ahead and kill them. The farm got some emergency interim relief, a stay on the cull order, but the CFIA took custody of those birds of the farm. They occupied the farm, confiscated property, even the neighboring farm it was like late August, early September, up until now, November. So it's like 5-6 weeks. And Supreme Court, in a 1-paragraph ruling after 40 plus days of mulling this over, say, we're not taking it up, appeal dismissed. And that night, the CFIA goes in with snipers in their kill pen that they set up with 3 stacks of hay high and 2 bales wide from an elevated position for about 6 hours, 1,000 rounds, shot all of these ostriches, 350-pound animals in a closed quarters where they were all standing around, running around, probably panicking as they were being shot one by one. The family, without warning, had to hear these bullets ringing out in the night, their animals getting slaughtered. Apparently, they were seen in the morning walking through, and allegedly, some of the birds were decapitated. And I haven't gotten an answer from the RCMP. They might have been, hacking the heads off, whichever ones weren't fully dead yet, or it might not have happened. We don't have any clarity, any details whatsoever, except for some images that appear to show decapitated birds. And all of this because there was the risk of infection. These birds were such a risk of carriers of H5N1 11 months out. They had to be slaughtered to comply with the stamping out policy of the World Organization of Animal Health, this globalist WHO adjacent entity. There was such a risk of contagion and contamination. They spilt their guts all over the place, blew their body fluids out everywhere, left their carcasses out for days to rot, for scavengers to go pick at. Then they finally picked them up in these containers where they stayed up for another couple of days, rotting and stinking away. The blood and guts everywhere. And then they take the hay and just disperse the hay at the neighboring field. The cops and the snipers who shot them, no hazmat suits there, and shoveling bloodied hay to spread it out across the properties, going in and out with their trucks, tracking tainted mud in and out. It's so dumb by their own rationale that they had to do this, that they decided to do this, and the manner in which they did it. If they were an infection risk, the government just made the super spreader event of blasting all of these fluids everywhere and then leaving them out for scavengers to come pick at for however long it took them before they cleaned up the carcasses of hundreds of 300-pound dead ostriches.
It's so insane. It's so insane for many reasons, but that the CFIA would come in the middle of, why would they come in the middle of the night and be with snipers?
It's demonic bloodlust. They had to do it before anything else could delay their desire, not even their need to slaughter these animals. It was urgent that they kill them as quickly as possible, despite all of the delays. After 11 months, they just the same night, and the family, no warning, just pop, 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 pop. You start hearing it. The family sobbing, wailing, and the worst thing about it is Canadians are what's the big deal? They're going to get compensated anyhow. Piss off, right? It's just a bunch of birds. It's first of all, other than the fact that they've got to pay back all of these court fees, court costs, they've been dragged through a year of litigation. The state does it. They do it with taxpayer dollars. They've had to fund their own litigation. They've had to fund their own demise. Getting compensated for the head of a chicken when these are ostriches that took 3.5 decades to grow, and they were not chickens for the purposes of consumption for sale in any event. People are idiots. They just want to find a way to forget about it, rationalize it, say that the farm deserved it. The amount of people I've had tell me they were engaged in research, Viva, they're part of the problem. I'm like, first of all, fuck you. Even if they were engaged in research that you disagreed with, that's not how a government comes in and decides to put this operation to an end. Second of all, it wasn't even the excuse being used by the government. You boot-licking idiots are raising an argument the government never themselves raised in their own defense of their slaughter. They didn't say it was a research facility and that they had to be killed because these were now tainted research animals, or that there was a contractual obligation to kill them after the research. People do work with animals all the time, rats, mice. Sometimes you have to, the protocol is you kill them. That wasn't even the excuse the government was raising. And you've got bootlicking, sycophant, subservient Canadians saying, they deserved it. That's what, okay. You're making up lies that the government itself is not even making up. They said it was a health risk. And to the extent it was, what they did defies all logic as to how you deal with a purported, alleged, bona fide health risk.